I'm often tired of processing information. I move around as fast as I can, but the world is overwhelmingly vast and fast. I answer emails, pick up things, comment on drafts, prepare slides, give talks, think of agreements, think of arguments, think of website designs, referee papers, write proposals, prepare figures, think of algorithms, take pictures, board planes, pack luggage, give advice, receive advice, press buttons on the elevator, try to remember things, and of course, I suffer at the keyboard while rearranging words. So you guys are kind of ready, you said? Yeah. You guys there on the back are ready? More or less? You guys need work? You guys are ready? And you guys? Okay. I think it should be natural to go in the order in which the questions were asked. So let's start with crystallized imagination. Questions are, what is encapsulated in the concept of crystallized imagination? What makes our species different from other species? That's a good one. If you didn't read the endnotes, there was a nice answer there. Yeah. How does the idea of crystallized imagination help us reinterpret economic processes such as international trade and the rhetoric of natural resource exploitation? You're going to start, Maria?
Yep. I'll start by quoting the great Cesar Hidalgo.
You lose points for, yeah.
So crystallized imagination is, quote, solid objects that humans create to accumulate information. And to expand a little bit on that, quote, information that we have generated through mental computations and then disembodied by creating an object that mimics the one we had in our head. So essentially, we take our imagination, we rearrange atoms, and then we have an object that's crystallized that imagination.
Good strategy, huh? So then I have to move everything there. So I would say everybody gets a glass of wine first, and then we start the stuff. The Carmenel. Thank you. Grab a glass, come sit down, and we'll join the show. Let's compare apples to apples. On your left, you have the apples that you carry on your pocket and you use to check your email. On the right, you have the apples that you buy in the supermarket and you eat every morning. And the question here is, what is the fundamental difference between these two products? Some people might say price, complexity, and I can very easily argue that this apple is more complex than that apple because there are some molecular machines that exist in this apple that are much more sophisticated than the ones that exist on that apple. But there's actually one true difference that sets these two products apart. The true difference is that the first apple existed first in the world and then in our heads. The second apple existed first in someone's head and then in the world. So the second apple is actually a crystal of imagination. So the question then is, well, why do we crystallize imagination? Why as a species we haven't gone through the trouble of creating a world in which all of the objects are imagined before they were built? To explain you why do we crystallize imagination, I'm going to ask you another question, which is, how many of you use toothpaste today? And now keep your hand up only if you know how to synthesize sodium fluoride. So what that teaches us? Well, is that when you actually buy toothpaste, you're not just buying paste in a tube. What you're buying is access to the practical uses of knowledge and know-how that resided in the nervous system of someone else. So you don't know how to synthesize sodium fluoride, you don't know how to put toothpaste in a tube, you know how to take it out, but put it in is kind of hard. You don't know how to manufacture that tube or those materials, Maybe you don't know even how to do like a nice graphic design that would make your toothpaste fly off the shelf, But you're accessing the practical uses of all those things in that little crystal of imagination. So what we're doing by crystallizing imagination is creating products that augment us, like the legs of Hugh. Hugh is not walking over robotic legs, he's walking over his own imagination made solid. Ants are individually not very smart. They're kind of stupid, and they're very little. There's not too much intelligence that you can embody in an ant. But together they can do great things. So how come ants can do great things together? And well, the thing is, ants have a trick. They can poop information in their environment. They can leave a pheromone trail. And by depositing information in their environment, actually they can communicate, they can coordinate, and they can solve complex problems of ventilation, routing, and construction. But there's a difference between us and ants. Ants, even though they can deposit information in the environment, they're stuck with an inventory that was given to them by nature. They have a fixed vocabulary that is encoded in their genes. Unlike ants, we just don't poop information that is encoded in our genes, we poop information that is encoded in our brains. And by creating these crystals of imagination, we're making accessible practical uses of knowledge, and by picking them up and recombining them, eventually we're able to achieve higher levels of complexity. So this ability to deposit information in the environment is actually what makes our species so successful. I started to realize that at the end of the day, like economies and groups of people have a large number of outputs, and if some of those outputs are tangible products and some of those outputs happen to be literary works or works of art or culture, in some sense it's kind of irrelevant. What we're producing is physical order. Sometimes that physical order has meaning. Sometimes that physical order has practical uses. By looking at these different things, once I step back, I realized that the question that I needed to ask was not why economies grow, why tumors grow, why culture grows, why babies grow, but it's why information grows. The funny thing is that was a question that nobody was asking. The title occurred to me, I think, in August of last year. And then I had to rewrite the connective tissue of the book around that title. And then in November, I decided to Google why information grows. And there were 4 hits. One of them was already my book. 2 of them are incomplete sentences. I was expecting that I would say, oh, maybe there's going to be someone that already wrote a book title like this, because why information and growth are not strange words. Right. They're very, very, very common words. But for some reason, nobody had put them together. To predict the number of amenities such as school, doctors, and shoe stores, which is scale tightly with the total number of amenities.
Hi, is Cesar Hidalgo here?
Yep, that's me.
There you go.
Thank you, man.
All right, have a nice weekend.
You too. The book. Ta-da! Oh, it looks nice. Look, that's my picture. That's me. Why information grows. Yeah.
¿Y qué pasa si le quitas esto?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how it looks like it would look like in a library when it gets old.
Yeah.
At 3 a.m., the nurse told us that it was time for Anna to start pushing. Anna was fully dilated, and Iris, our daughter, was making one of the most important trips of her life. It took only 26 minutes for Anna to push Iris into the hands of the nervous but focused medical student who received her. 26 minutes sounds like a short time for delivery, and it is. Yet, I will argue that the trip that Iris made that night was not a 26-minute trip down a few inches of birth canal, but a 100,000-year journey from a distant past to an alien future. In 26 minutes, Iris traveled from the ancientness of her mother womb to the modernity of 21st century society. Birth is, in essence, time travel. Up until that night, with the exception of a few sounds, Iris had experienced a world that was no different from the one experienced by babies 100,000 years ago. She had been carrying inside her mother's womb, hearing mostly the voices of her parents, oblivious to the complexity of the modern world that swirled around her. That obliviousness changed that night. Iris was born at 3:26 a.m. in a room that was illuminated not by sunbeams, but by fluorescent and incandescent bulbs. Her paternal grandparents, who were anxiously waiting to hear about her delivery, saw her face for the first time in an email attachment. The music that filled the living room minutes after Iris was born came not from the birds or the trees, but from the speakers of a tablet computer that obeyed the orders of an algorithm that chose a song for us. Iris' trip that night was only a few inches long and lasted a few minutes, but in a deep sense, it was a much longer journey. That night, she traveled from a distant past into a present that was literally fantastic.
No? For Iriska? But this is too little. It's too little for you. You cannot put this anymore. It's too little for Iriska. Let's put it on the bear. There. Chan. Eat it like a hot dog. 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 Yum, 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 yum.
That hair though. She got Cesar's hair. Yeah. The rock star.
A ver. Where are the pens? Iriska, Madrid, look. You wanna draw? Look here. Write some equations. During the members week, I gave a presentation of why information grows, and then there was some people, that came to me to talk after the presentation. Some of these people were religious, and they were asking some religious questions. Some of them was about life after death, and the question is, well, is there life after death? And the answer is yes, it's obvious, but there's some very clear rules. You have to mix yourself with someone, and that person that is born from the two of you doesn't have any memories that it was part of you and her. And it's going to have their own independent life, and that's how life after death look like, But it's not this selfish life after death in which you are alive. Life exists after death. You are gone. I find this much more poetic, that there is life after death only if you are generous enough to mix yourself with someone.
I'm a small mobile neuron in a vast social and economic universe. I move around often, not knowing where I am going. Pulled around by signals, I struggle to adapt as I attempt to balance my desires to make something with my desires to live a social life. Of course, that's not always easy. And that in a nutshell is what life is all about. Moving around and processing information. Helping information grow while interacting in a social context. We spend our lives passing on meaningless objects and meaningful messages. Objects that augment our capacity to process information, and messages that affect our behaviors and attitudes toward others. We form social structures to compensate for our limited capacities, and these social structures learn how to process information. And thus we get information in objects and words. We create our surroundings from the most meaningful to the meaningless, as we inadvertently slave away in the service to the growth of information.
Never stop computing.